Live from sunny Live Oak, Florida, it's the Pro Arms Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Pro Arms Podcast. This is your host, Steve Denny, and we are here at Podcast Central, of course, with the Predator, Gail, and she's waving because she's got a little frog in her throat. Well, she's got a big frog in her throat, and she's not going to croak at us, but she is watching us carefully. When I say us, that means Mass is over here, comfortably seated and ready to join in for the introduction for this. So, Mass, here we are. This is a recording that was done at the what are we calling
the pin shoot? It's
just,
now
just
the
pin shoot, I guess. It used to be Second Chance pin shoot.
For 24 years, it was the Second Chance shoot. Stopped in 1998. Rich Davis, who hosted it and was the founder of Second Chance Body Armor, sold the company. And after 19 years, it was resurrected this year as the pin shoot. The main sponsor is Richard's son, who's kind of stayed in the family business. He started Armor Express in Central Lake. It was, for us, a great shoot. For me, kind of like a 20-year school reunion. And for everybody there, an opportunity for a lasting lesson in officer survival and street survival. The pin shoot has always brought in some of the saves from the company. And this year, it was the guy who has probably stopped more bullets and lived than any cop I can think of. He was shot 15 times. The vest saved his life. Several of the bullets stopped on it. He took 2 in the head, one of which had been slowed on a glancing shot from the back of the vest, and that slowed down the 147 grain subsonic enough that it didn't penetrate the back of the skull. The first shot he took was right to the chin, deflected downward into the voice box, and you'll hear the results of that in an ominously gravelly voice. He stayed in the fight, even though his gun was literally shot out of his hand. And Brian Murphy left us all with some lasting lessons. I think they'll be pretty self-explanatory, and you'll hear it, so to speak, from the horse's mouth. But it's a tremendous story of survival and the heroism of not only Brian Murphy, but his brother officer who entered the fight, firearms instructor and marksman Sam Lenda from the same department, Oak Creek, Wisconsin PD. Sam was the second to arrive, and Sam Lenda, at 180 feet, fired 2 shots from his AR-15 and inflicted a mortal wound on the perpetrator of the mass murder, who then put the gun to his head and hastened his own departure with the final shot. The result of the massacre was 10 people shot, only 4 survivors. Brian Murphy is one of them, and I hope our listeners find his story as compelling as Gail and I did.
Yeah, just to set the stage here just a little bit. At the time, Brian was a lieutenant with the Oak Creek, Wisconsin Police Department, and those of you who were paying attention to such things back then, on August the 5th, 2012, on a Sunday, the Sikh Temple there in Oak Creek was the target of an attack by a guy by the name of Wade Michael Page. You'll hear Brian just refer to him as Page throughout his comments about this. But this is something that goes back now almost 5 years. But his description is very detailed. And one of the lessons learned that I picked out of it right away was the fact that it was very difficult, especially when you're the first guy on the scene, which Brian was, trying to figure out who's who and what's what when you have just basic sketchy information that's come through your dispatchers and 911 reports and so on. You'll hear some recordings of some of that. And we always caution people, when you get involved in any of these incidents, you need to know who the players are before you start taking any action. And you'll hear in Brian's discussion of this how when he first got there, that was a real issue. So anyway, and here is In his own words, Lieutenant Brian Murphy from Oak Creek, Wisconsin Police Department at the time.
This, to me, is one of the highlights of the pin shoot, having somebody here to tell you a story that is just going to blow your mind. Back in 2012, in August, a lone gunman went into a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and began murdering innocent people in a time of prayer. Lieutenant Brian Murphy from the Oak Creek Police Department. Lieutenant, 22 years on the police force. He's done everything from SWAT, from medic. He's done patrol, basically every job there is to do, firearms instructor. He's the first man to arrive on the scene, and during the altercation, he gets shot a total of 15 times. 3 of them landed on his Armor Express body armor, and that saved his life. From the moment Brian arrived, there were no more casualties sustained at the temple. So since that incident, Brian has become very close to Armor Express. He's actually our saves program manager. A lot of the saves that we have, they're young guys, only on the force a few years, never really go into law enforcement expecting to get shot or expecting to have to go through the trauma that you incur, both mentally and physically. And what we found is police departments today are just not really set up to deal with what these officers go through. Sure, they give them counseling, but there's all kinds of things that go beyond what the department can really provide to them. And it extends to not only that officer, but their peers and their family and their family's family and so on. We're so fortunate to have Brian as a part of the Armor Express team. He has taken on the role as our Saves Program Manager. And as a senior guy on the department, he's been around the block. Nobody went through it more so than him. And now he serves as a mentor and a counselor to the guys that, law enforcement officers that have been shot and are going through this. There's all kinds of things that they have to deal with that you might not think about. There's the pressures of, do I go back to work? My spouse doesn't want me to go back to work. My parents don't want me to go back to work. How the relationship and the interaction changes with the children, how it changes with the peers, and so on and so forth. And Brian's just been an amazing guide and advocate for these guys. And not only just Armor Express saves, but all police officers in general. I mean, if there's an active shooting incident, Brian pretty much knows about it, and he offers his services to help them. So with that, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you Lieutenant Brian Murphy.
I'm glad they shut down the compressor because I'm at max volume now, and screaming over that wouldn't be good. So the city of Oak Creek, I'll go back to it. We border the city of Milwaukee to the south. It's not a huge department. You can see it's 28 square miles, about 35,000 people. I started back in 1991 there, and it was 14,000 people. Now, the funny thing about that is we've tripled in size, we've quadrupled in calls for service, but we have the same exact 58 sworn officers that we did back in 1990. There's something wrong with that when you have quadruple calls and you're still expecting the same out of that manpower. But that's a political thing and not for me to worry about. The big thing that we did, and Oak Creek is one of these anomalies of a city. I've been to 8 plane crashes, train derailment, domestic terrorism, knocking down power lines, tornado, blizzards, floods, grass fires that went about 10 square miles of the city. We're just a magnet for bad stuff. Now, while the city's only 34,000 people, we have an interstate that goes through it. So on a daily basis, we get about 1.5 million people travel through the city. So we have our fair share of stuff. Now, the big thing that's up here is the emergency response unit. Back in 1992, I was one of the founding members on the SWAT team, and we started with, you'll appreciate this, we started with a retired bread truck that we detailed on our own time. Everybody had a wheel gun, everybody had a revolver, and that's it. But, we all got the same uniform, so we thought we were a really cool-ass baseball team that went and knocked down doors. And we moved on down the line. We went to MP5s, and then we moved up to ARs. And as we went through all our different things, we realized we needed more equipment. I think it was when we were on the north side of Milwaukee. We did a drug search warrant, and the truck wouldn't start, so the whole SWAT team had to come out and push start. That's not a good look, I'm sorry, it just doesn't look well for you. But we wound up getting some more equipment and doing some more things. And I'm gonna cut right to it. The Sikh Temple is almost smack dab in the middle of the city. From the roadway, the major thoroughfare that goes through Howell Avenue, and I know you guys can't see it all the way in the back, but Howell Avenue is all the way on this side of the screen, and you'll see there's going to be a number of squad videos that show you the arrival of different officers, and that's where everybody's coming from, is Howell Avenue. But funny thing about the Sikh Temple is, from that roadway, you can't see it. You can't see the parking lot, you can't see anything. So unless you know it's there, it doesn't exist. You would drive by it every day and not see anything about it. The other part of that is, because the shooting is taking place there, there's no really strategic place to put yourself that you can kind of sneak in. You just got to get in. And the downside to it is, as you come up the main driveway, it goes up. So you actually hit this point where you're on the top of the hill, and you're a nice silhouette for anybody who's down shooting. So you got to get in, look, and get down quick. And you'll see it as this goes on. The building itself, the Sikh Temple itself, it doesn't look like it is there. It's 17,500 square feet. It's a big building. So when this thing comes in, I've been there before to the outside. I've never entered into the building. We've had a couple of calls for service, but nothing crazy. This is the shooter, Wade Michael Page. All accounts, he's just an average guy. When he's 6 years old, his mom gives him up to go live with his grandparents. And his grandfather is a judge in Colorado. And then he spent some time living with his aunt and uncle. And his uncle is a Colorado state trooper. Sends himself to law school, and he's actually a prosecutor in the Denver area. So by all accounts, he's just a normal guy. He's not a good student, not a bad student. He's nothing until he joins the Army. And he joins the Army, and he becomes two things. He becomes an alcoholic, and he becomes a member of the Hammerskins, which is a white supremacist group. They were founded in Dallas. They got Chicago, North Carolina, California, and 11 other countries besides that. And this is where Page finds his niche in life, is he feels like he's one of these guys. And the only thing that Page does really well is he plays guitar. And because he plays guitar well, he gets recruited to play in these white supremacist bands, and that's how they get new members in. So really, until he's there and he's with these guys, he doesn't feel like he has any place. But once he's with them, now he's embedded in them, and that's where his mindset goes. So again, I'm not going to keep everybody here. This is a long one, but what happens is this. Page goes from North Carolina, where he's dating an American Indian woman, which is a no-no. If you're a white supremacist, you should only be dealing with white people. And she's not. But they date for 2 years. They break up. He moves to Wisconsin, and he meets this girl in the nearby city to Oak Creek, and she is a member of this thing called Volksfront. And Volksfront is like the female offshoot of the Hammerskins. So she's very much involved in the white power movement. So after a couple months, they break up, but they're living on and off with each other. And when they break up, the girl in our city finds a picture of the American Indian girl, and that sets her through the roof. And she calls a bunch of Hammerskins down in Chicago, and they set a meeting with Page on June 30th. And on June 30th, while they don't physically beat him up, they kind of pound him verbally that he's not dedicated to the cause, and he was a patched member, and they really get on him. And from that meeting, when they leave Page, that's the last contact Page has with anybody. He just basically falls off the face of the map. Now, on July 19th, he goes into this place called Badger Arms in Wisconsin. It's hot. And if you could see it, you'll see he's wearing a long sleeve shirt. And he does this because he's got tattoos he's got the SS symbol, he's got pride, he's got suffer, he's got the Orion patch. There's no doubting that he is what he is, but he hides it because when he goes to pick up his gun, he doesn't want to cause any waves. He doesn't want anybody to notice that he's different. So much so that I know you can't really see it good, but in the upper right-hand picture, he's actually given marksmanship lessons to the family that's over there. When the feds come and talk to that family loved him. They said, oh, he helped pick up the brass, he helped give us lessons, especially with my son, he was great. Meanwhile, he knows in less than 2 weeks, he's going to kill as many people as possible. This is an overview. I borrowed this from a federal agency. Sometimes they call them fabulous but incompetent. I'll let you figure out who that is. So as you look at this, as we come down to 6 o'clock, and so every time this spins, this is the kitchen right here. This is where everybody eats. It's one of the things that the Sikh religion do together is after every mass, everybody sits and they eat. Right next to it, this large room here is the prayer area. As it goes around to the north side of the building, these are bedrooms and conference rooms. Now it's going to swing around to the front. You can see the overhang. It's the main entrance. So when you walk in the main entrance and you go straight, you're going to go into the prayer area. So as this kind of zooms in, it's going to scooch off to the right. And you're going to notice as it goes into the kitchen area, 3 distinct trajectory marks. And if you watch, there's a definitive point of convergence where the bullets all land. And 2 of them are really close. One's a little bit off. And that distance is all of about 1.5 feet. But as it comes in closer, you see that box on the right with the 3 lines going in it? That's a microwave oven. And there's 3 bullets where the grouping you could fit inside a coffee cup. It's a really tight group. And that door that's to the right of that, over here is the pantry. And all this will come into play because you're going to kind of run through it. Now, it's 10:25 on Sunday morning, August 5th. One thing that Page does is prior to this Sunday, he goes to the temple on Tuesday. And one thing about the Sikh religion, how many people wouldn't even know who a Sikh is? What do they look like? How can you tell somebody who's Sikh? They wear a turban. 99% of the men you see in this country wearing a turban are not Muslim, they're Sikh. And people get them confused after 9/11. They have been the brunt of a lot of hate crimes, believing that they're Middle Eastern or they're Muslim. First guy killed after 9/11 was a shopkeeper out in Arizona, 65 years old, taken out of a shot and beaten to death. They're very peace-loving. They live, their religion is based on these 3 words: serve and protect. You serve your fellow man and you protect people who are getting bullied. That's their religion. So on this day, on the Tuesday before, when Paige comes to the temple, long sleeve shirt, they welcome him in. And they walk him all the way around the temple, and here's where we eat, and here's where we pray, and this is where people come and visit. And off he goes. And then he comes back on Thursday, and there's a different group in there. And he does the same thing. He sits down and eats with them, and they walk all the way through. Anybody in here ever been in the service? Military guys? No military? Oh, stop. Get that biscuit gripper up. You were in the military? All right. What do you call that? What is he doing? Exactly right. He's doing recon work. He wants to know where the exits are. He wants to know where people go. He goes through all of this. So then comes Sunday morning. 10:25 in the morning. If you don't know what Murphy's Law is, it's about 5'11", 200 pounds, got a bunch of holes in them. This is my off day. So I shouldn't even be at work. But I got one sergeant on vacation, the other one, his son's graduating ROTC, and he has to switch with me. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be fun. Easy day, it's a Sunday. Normally for us, it's a very slow day. But at 10:25, the first call comes in.
Okay, 911, where's your emergency?
There with a transfer for Sikh Temple.
What's going on?
Yeah, I was just in the parking lot gonna go in, and I hadn't parked yet, but I heard gunshots, and someone was shot. I think someone was shooting. Some guy he was bald. I left, because I didn't. My kids were in the car. He was bald, and he had glasses on, and I think he shot somebody with a turban. And I'm there, but I left the site. But I just wanted to let you guys know.
Okay.
He went inside the temple. He's planning on shooting other people.
Do you see the individuals inside?
I did see him inside. It's on the parking lot. He shot somebody. There were shots heard.
Okay, we're sending on it, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Stay safe, go out of the area.
So what happens is this black car drives in the driveway, and let's think of it like the gravel road here. So that car drives up and then pulls and faces the wall. Right behind that car is Paige. And he pulls in, only instead of going that way, he drives the other way, goes to the entire opposite side of the lot, and then takes his car and he faces it in. So he can see both the opening of the temple and the entire parking lot, as well as the entrance. He's got military experience. He understands the concepts involved here. Now, at the same time, there's a woman in the kitchen of the temple. And while she's there, they run out of something. I can't remember. I think it was like paper plates or something. So she tells her husband, hey, run with me over to the grocery store. We're going to pick up plates. We'll come back. And she explains to me, Brian, I never, ever leave my kids alone. She's got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And she says, I never leave my kids alone, but this is going to take 5 minutes. It's right across the street. Hops in the car. Her kids kind of walk out with them. They get in the car. The two kids just stand at the entrance to the temple looking out the front glass door. And they watch the parents drive out as this car pulls in and Paige's car pull in. So while they're there and just looking out the door, remember this, 10 and 7. The next thing they see is this white guy get out of a truck and start walking directly across the lot. And in this black car that's here, there's two brothers. Brother gets out of the passenger side. He looks and he sees this guy coming, and he walks around by his brother, and he says, welcome, sir. Please come inside and have tea. And as Paige gets closer, he takes the gun out, boom, 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 and he drops them. The 10-year-old and the 7-year-old are at the front glass door watching this happen. So what do? They run right inside and they go, there's a guy outside, he's shooting. And the first person there is a woman. And what does the woman do? And you got to be honest with yourself. What would you really do if a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, you're going to go, at least you're going to go look, right? So what happens is this woman walks to the front, sees Paige walking towards her, walking towards the front of the building, and she runs inside and she yells, there's a guy outside with a gun.
Oak Creek 911, where's your emergency? He's in a church with a gun?
Yeah, he's shooting. He's still shooting. I can hear it in there. He's in there shooting people.
He's in there shooting people?
Yeah, that's my guess. He had a gun. He was shooting on the outside, and then we seen him run in there. A bigger guy, white shirt.
Bigger gentleman, white male?
Yeah, white male looked to be, we were 100 yards away. We were doing the lot next door.
A white male with a gun. Can you tell me anything else?
There's a handgun, that's all I know.
A handgun, what was he wearing?
White shirt, that's all I really seen.
A white shirt?
We get out of the way.
White shirt?
Yeah. I don't know. It's right next door. It's some kind of temple. We're at.
You're right. It's we already have officers responding.
Okay.
Okay.
We seen them kind of go in, and we just heard some more shots fired, so we're thinking it's not good.
Okay, and you did hear shots. And your workers, where are you working?
I'm sorry, what?
Your workers? Okay, we're sending people. We're getting multiple calls.
Okay.
I meant to tell you this. I have 2 dispatchers working, and the cop in the back will back me up on this. I had 2 dispatchers working. I got Doreen, and Doreen's been there a couple of years less than me. And when Doreen's not outside smoking, is actually sitting at the desk, phenomenal job. Sandy, on the other hand, has a different style. Hers is more laid back. She tries to get as much information as possible. And when you hear the difference between the 2 of them, you can understand that. She's talking to, right next door to the Sikh Temple, just to the north, is a big industrial complex. And there's guys out there paving. Right? It's a Sunday. They're not going to have any truck traffic. Great day to pave. So when they're out there, they hear the gunfire. And you can hear that guy. He knows the difference. And all he can see is Paige walking in the building and see his white shirt. So as Paige is walking in the building, the woman that I told you about runs back and she says, there's a guy outside shooting. There's a woman and she's standing off into the hall. She runs up. She sees the other woman and like, they're out there. The guy's coming, he's shooting. And she says, I'm going inside and I'm going to pray because God will protect me. And she walks in the door and she goes right to the right and gets down on her hands and knees. And Paige walks in right behind her, follows her, and actually shoots at her and hits the door frame as she runs by, follows her in, and he shoots her dead. So then he walks outside, and he's looking right back where he came in. So he's got a hallway to the right, hallway to the left. And this guy's outside, and I want you to just kind of listen to, he's on the phone with the department, trying to do the best he can.
Oak Creek 911, where's your emergency?
Emergency, you are talking here. Person fired 15 to 20 rounds in the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin.
Okay, you're in the Sikh Temple, okay.
On Wisconsin.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Hold on.
What's going on?
Sikh Temple of Wisconsin, people are firing up. 60 rounds, they fire the police. Police is not reaching. What is the thing that is going on?
Okay, we have officers en route.
I don't get in around. The white guy is doing firing at least. He did 50
They're fighting.
rounds.
Is there a gun?
Oh, gun. He was the white guy is doing the firing already. 15 rounds.
Okay, we have officers there.
So as he's on the phone, you can actually hear him speaking, they speak Punjabi. And he's speaking to his wife, and his wife is with a group of people, and he gives her the keys to this door at the very end of the hallway, which goes into the basement. And he's shuffling people in, gives her the keys, and while he's on the phone, Paige comes out, sees him on the phone, boom, 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 boom. So those shots you hear are directed at him, and he goes down. Now, there's a doorway to the left and a doorway to the right. Paige walks up the hall. The doorway to the left, that door is open just a little bit. He slides that door open. There's an 80-year-old man in there. And he's on his knees praying, and Paige walks in, boom, shoots him in the chest. And he doesn't die, but he has a stroke. And his name is Baba Punjab Singh. And he can only communicate now by blinking. But he's still alive, even after 5 years. I mean, it's incredible. On the right side of the door, that doorway's closed. Now, Paige does something that's extremely heinous. Because I want you to kind of think about this. You're at your church, and all of a sudden you have all this shooting and stuff, and you go and you hide, and you're behind this door, and the next thing you hear on the door is just 3 soft knocks. Not pounding, not jiggling the door, not kicking it, just, Well, what are you going to do? You're probably at least going to look, right? You're going to check, which is what happens. And the guy here on the left opens the door just a crack, boom, right through the eye. And he shoots him, and he goes down. It's hard to see, but when this door opens, straight in the back is a man named Mr. Kalika. And Mr. Kalika is the president of this temple. And he's got his hands up, and he's saying, please, you don't have to do this. Now, as Page shoots that first guy, he walks in the room, he steps over him. It's a straight wall here, but on the left, it opens up into a bedroom. So as he's walking in, he has Kalika under the gun. He sees the door open up just out of the corner of his eye, and his guy's standing on a bed. And he turns, boom, and he shoots him in the stomach. And then he continues on with Kalika. The guy who got shot in the stomach jumps off the bed and runs out of the room. Runs the length of the building, across the parking lot. It would basically be like running from here to the white truck out there after he got shot, which is a phenomenal distance to go. Anyway, he goes in and he drops on this guy's lawn.
Creek 911, register emergency. Hi, this is the sheriff, 328 East Manitoba, shooting victim in the front yard of this house. 328
East Manitoba Avenue. Yeah.
328 East Manitoba.
Yeah, I can still hear. I was hearing gunshots, but there's something going on here. They're shooting all around my house here.
Okay, stay safe, get safe.
Okay, all right. I got a guy later in my front yard. We'll put a chest wound. Okay, all right, bye.
See, that's Doreen. Doreen's not asking a bunch of questions. Now, the funny thing is, of all the houses in Oak Creek that you fall on the lawn of, this is probably one of the best houses to do so. Because that's Jim Hazy, who's on the phone. Jim just retired after 32 years in the fire department. He's a paramedic. He's a highly decorated Vietnam vet. So he's like, got guns going, go get off the phone, hangs up. What does he do? He turns to the guy, packs the wound. He's got his cell phone. He's already, because he was 32 years, he has the numbers of everybody on the rigs. He calls. That guy's at the hospital 20 minutes before everybody else. So really, if he goes one house either way, who knows if this guy ever lives or not. But God does a lot of touching people on August 5th, and that was one of the things. In the meantime, Paige is on Kalika. And Kalika's still, please sit. You don't need to do this. There's no need to do this anymore. Boom. And Kalika goes down. Now, in the Sikh religion, there's a thing called the 5 Ks, and one of the Ks is a thing called a kirpan. And it's a small ceremonial knife. It's not sharp. It's more like for show and adherence to the religion. But he's got one, and it's on a lanyard. So as he goes down and Paige comes near him, he takes out the kirpan, grabs Paige around the leg, and starts stabbing him in the leg. Now remember something, he's a 63-year-old man, no military, no law enforcement, but what he has is that ability to warrior up, cowboy up, and say, I need to protect my people. And he's doing that, and he's going at it, and boom, boom. And what he does in the end is he winds up dropping the kirpan, and he takes his hands, and he wraps his hands so tightly into the pant legs of Kalika that Kalika is having a hard time getting away, and eventually just steps on him and rips his leg away, but he peels the fingernails off of Kalika. And that's how and then Mr. Kalika dies. I want you to understand this. Some of this you got to go, well, how do you know that? And I know that because one of the reasons why he's fighting so hard is right to the left is a bathroom. And inside the bathroom is a mother, a father, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And Kalika's so afraid and so worried about his people that he's thinking he's going to go after he kills me, he's going to go and kill them. So that's how I know what happens inside. So now Paige comes out, And he's all the way on the north side of the building, and he starts walking straight up to the south. I told you, one of the things that the Sikh religion do is you pray together, and then as soon as you're done, everybody goes and we eat together. You take turns feeding each other. I think it's cool. And while this is going on, inside this kitchen, which is about probably the 2 windows together, man, maybe back about 15 feet. So while they're in there, and you have to pay attention to this, they're cooking. Remember I said that, they're cooking. So inside this little pantry room is a bunch of people. And there's 3 women in there. And 3 women say to each other, the stove's on. If that starts on fire, we got no way out of here. What are we gonna do? We're gonna die in here. So they leave the pantry and start walking across the kitchen to go shut off the stoves. And there comes Paige right around the corner. Boom, boom, boom. He shoots at the 3 of them and he misses them. There's 18 feet and he misses them. So what do? They stop like deer in the headlight, right? I know that most people, so he goes up. So they stop and then they're like, uh-oh, and they head back to where they came from. Because remember, they're coming from a room where they're safe, right? Nothing was going on. They run in and he tracks them, boom, boom, boom. And he misses all 3 of them again. And that group, like I said, can go in a coffee cup. And they go inside and they close the door. But all that door is a hollow core door. No lock, and they're inside.
We need help. Somebody shooting both sides.
Yes, we've got help on the way, okay?
We have just hide now.
Stay on with me. Okay? Ma'am?
You can even hear how lower her whisper gets. So when Paige turns and he shoots at these women, they run into this pantry. So what he does is he shoots them from here and they're cutting across. Now there's a little island here. So when he walks around the island, he actually walks by that window. There's 3 big windows. So he's got to go to there. So as he comes around and starts walking to him, he looks out the window, and that's when he sees my squad. In reality, in the very end of this, if you break it down, if it was not for Mr. Kalika doing everything that he could and holding him there for 30 seconds, a minute and a half, how long do you think it would take to pull the trigger enough times through a hollow core door to do damage? I mean, you can watch it here. There's some people going brip, brip, brip. There's a guy who shows up with 5 mags, a speed loader, and 2 boxes of ammo. And he's loaded before he goes in. So when he walks up to this door, as he's walking, he sees my car, and by the grace of God, he leaves them alone. And he comes outside. So it's Sunday morning. It's 10:25. I'm working, and I have 7 other guys working. I keep half in because I have training to do. So I keep half the shift in to get training with them. I'm out on the road, and then I'm going to flip-flop. And my thought is I'm going to get everybody trained by lunch. Nice, easy day. This is going to go beautifully until this happens. So.
Okay. 666. Over business one. Squad, I'm taking report of an altercation, Sikh Temple, 7512 South Howell. There's a lot of noise. I'm unable to get much info, but there's a fight, and now it's.
This is a Sunday morning, and we have very good traffic obeyers. Because my red lights and siren are on, and they're still not moving because they're afraid of traffic. See, even when I jump up on the curb, They're not moving.
609, we'll take it to.
There may have been some cursing involved there.
Now there may be reports of gunshot. 878 copies. 85 call. Good. 3. I have a caller reporting gunshot. A bald male with glasses may have shot someone. I'm gonna dispatch fire department for state. Fire is responding also. Give me the location again, please. Sikh Temple, 7512 South Howell. 68 code 3 for the station. Hey, this is Wells from 301. Give me the info on who is leaving, or if they're still on scene with the gun. Last I heard is a balding male with glasses may have gone inside with a gun and there were shots fired. We'll be going 23, I see. Stand for. One down, give me an ambulance.
Just kind of, I know it's hard to see, but look where the light pole is. Just look beyond the light pole.
Hold down. I need an ambulance. I do not see a shooter anywhere. And I am on the, just come in behind me.
Unit, dispatching fire.
Copy, going up on Holland Fortville, 1033. 85, 1033.
All right, somebody yelled white shirt. I heard you. All right, so here's how it goes. A year and a half before this, I get into a training accident. I hurt my back. And I actually have to have 2 separate back operations, and I have my spine fused and 2 levels at the very bottom. But I really I don't want to give up my career. So I fight hard and I get back to work. And when I come back to work, we had just gotten these new gun racks that hold both a shotgun and RAR. And they explained to me, all you got to do, it's electric lock, 2 buttons, boom, opens. Awesome. I never asked, well, what happens when the buttons don't work? And in reality, up until August 5th, they always worked. But I did say my name's Murphy, right? So August 5th, I go out to my squad, check it, hit the buttons, nothing. Shake it up, hit the buttons, nothing. And my thought is this, it's a Sunday morning, I'm only gonna be out for half a shift. I have 7 other guys out, so I only have 1 more squad car, which is, and if you're in our world, it goes by seniority, you get the nicest car down to nobody wants the hunk of junk still rolling. So I got a choice. I could have my comfy SUV, or I could have the hunk of junk car. So guess what? I'm in the SUV. As this call comes in, immediately I know I'm gonna be the first one there. The way we run it is hot call, a guy with a gun shooting whatever. We just dispatch it, and you go by seniority, and I hear where everybody's coming from, and I know. And in actuality, it's almost exactly 2 minutes from the time of the call till the time I arrive, which is phenomenally quick for an active shooter. So as I get there, I hit the rise, I look, I don't see anything, I don't hear anything, but straight ahead, it looks like somebody's down. So there's a concept called friendly wall. I know I got nothing off to my left. I got the brick wall, plus I have the complex. So I hook over, follow that wall straight down, get out. I'm about 15 feet away from what looks like 1 guy down. And you can hear when I get out of the car, I have a man down, send an ambulance, just come in behind me. So while I'm on the horn there, you want to do me a favor? The guy with the badge on his shirt, that would be you. There you go. All right, here's what I want you to do for me. When I tell you, all I want you to do is start walking that way, okay? Give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. So I'm all the way off here when I'm on the hook, and then all of a sudden I see a guy in a white shirt come out, and he starts going that way. So as he goes, stop 1 second. He matches the description in as much as he's a white guy with a white shirt. That is not enough for me to shoot and drop him. I can't see his hands. Now, just like you from where you're sitting, sometimes you could see more, and sometimes people's heads are in the way and you can see less of him. And it's the same thing when I'm looking, there's cars in the lot, so I could see from his chest up, and then when he gets in between the cars, then I could see more. So I'm tracking him, and once he gets in, I see a valley, and it looks like he's got a holster, but I'm thinking, it's like 40 yards, maybe it's a cell phone holder, what? I'm not sure, so I yell, police, stop. So go ahead and keep going. Now, I want you to understand this. Stop again. 6 shots in that kitchen, 18 feet at 3 adult women, and he doesn't hit anything. Now, we're 40 yards. He's jogging. I don't want you to jog, but he's jogging. Turn sideways, like even just a hair more. And now raise your arm and point it, your right arm and point it at me. So basically, he's running, and he brings his hand up just like that. So that's all I could see. When that thing comes up, my gun comes out, boom. And we both shoot. I'm moving, he's running. What do you think the odds of anybody, either one of us hitting anything are? Pretty low, unless your name is Murphy. I shoot, boom. And I miss. He shoots, boom, right in the face. The bullet goes down my neck, rips up my voice box, hits my spine, and it goes in. It's about 3 millimeters behind my carotid artery now. Now, I'll tell you this. I grew up in Brooklyn, and I moved out to Wisconsin when I was like 29. But growing up, I was very small. I had a really big mouth, and I wasn't that fast, which is the trifecta of catching beatings. So I grew up, and I'll be honest, I got my butt handed to me a lot. And in essence, that's what it felt like. Getting shot in the face felt like a good punch. It didn't knock me out. It didn't do anything other than a small hiccup. So here's what I want you to do now. So when a shot comes, all of you play along, because what you see is him running that way. So where are you going to think he's going to keep going? He's going to keep going, right? So what I do is, after I get shot, there's cars here. So I go behind the car to get cover, and I'm watching that way. Unbeknownst to me, he stops, and now he comes, come on. Yes, sir. All the way around, even behind the TV. So while I'm over here, and I'm down behind the car, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking under the cars, I don't know if he's taking cover. There's still shots coming. It's still boom, 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 and I'm, hey, yo, you know what it's like if you shoot your gun and you're not wearing ear protection. It's loud, your hearing's not that good. And I'm down, and I'm down, and I'm down for all of 10 seconds. That's it, 10. Just to the front here, sir. And when I'm like, this is too long for me, I gotta get up. So when I get up from behind the car, and I get my gun up, he actually came all the way behind me, and now he's back here. So when I bring my gun up, boom, he shoots, and he shoots, he takes the gun, he takes the top half of my left thumb off, and he shoots the gun out of my hand. Again, he covers that ground in 10 seconds, and as he's flanking, he's still shooting, and in the military, it's suppression fire, right? If somebody's shooting at you, you tend not to get up and go, where are those bullets? You know, you just tend not to. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. Thanks, sir. So when I come up and boom, this goes, and my thumb explodes. It's just, whoosh, and it's slow motion, and there's this giant spray, and I look at my thumb, and all I could think of is, man, that's gonna leave a mark. And I was right. And in reality, and I'm not saying that for the joke, that's actually what goes through my head is I'm like, wow. Now, I'm thinking that, and he's just thinking, I'm gonna shoot some more. So he keeps boom, boom, boom. Now, the thing comes down to this. Me and him are about 10 feet away. My squad is on the other side of him because I was at the front and I start running to find him and then he comes around behind. So I can't even get back to my squad unless I go through him. So the car is there. I can hear my guys coming. I know they're going to be there in no time flat. So I think I'm going to grab some cover. I go to the truck, get under the truck, stick my Armor Express Quantum 3A vest out, which I still have, and I keep under my bed in case I ever need it. And he walks by, boom, boom, and he shoots me in the vest a couple times. And then he goes to the front of the car, and then it stops. There's no more shooting, and there's no more noise. And I'm laying there, and I'm thinking, man, this is quiet, and I could stay here, and nobody's trying to kill me now. And this goes, while I'm saying it to you, this is ripping through my head quickly. It's not like I have an hour. And I'm just thinking, man, I could stay here. And then I see my wife's face, my wife Ann, and I see my kids, and I think I am not going out in a parking lot. And I think I'm going to get back to the car. One way or another, I got to get back to the car. I know he came around, so I know the car's back here. So when I roll out, I'm looking up, and I'm on my elbows and my butt and my heels, and that pause, that thought in my head is like maybe he took off, is him just reloading. So when I roll out, that lovely sound of the slide coming home is on, and now it's just me and him looking at each other, and it starts, and it's just boom, 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 and I'm moving back, and we're just staring at each other, and I made a conscious decision that I'm not giving him anything. I'm not begging, I'm not yelling. Getting shot burns more than anything else, because it's hot metal. But all I could think of is, I'm not giving it to you. And we're just staring at each other, but he won't come close. He's just staying his distance, and I'm moving back, and it's boom, boom, boom. And the funny thing is, all I'm doing is I'm thinking, get to the car, get to the car, get to the car. And I get about halfway back, and now he doesn't stop. It's just boom, 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 boom. And all I could think of is, just get close. Because now I went from being focused on that to, I'm just mad at this point, because I'm just thinking, when are you going to be done shooting me? Because he's shooting a lot. Around my body are 26 shell casings. And it goes on for 1 minute and 51 seconds. Now, think about that. How up on the range next time around, anybody who's even just an average shooter, how many pins can you knock down in 1 minute 51? It's a long time. So I'm thinking, I'm not getting to the car fast enough, so I roll over and I start low crawling, and the shots keep coming, boom, 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 and he shoots me in my left arm through the back, and it comes out the front, and it actually sprays. And again, in the middle of this, you get these weird thoughts, and I'm like, that looks kind of cool, because it's like just like this red fog, and I'm like, nice. And I keep going until it happens. And the it happens is the last shot. I'm on my hands and knees. elbows and knees really, and I'm moving. If I tell you I'm crawling, I'm not doing this fast. Understand that. I've just been shot at this point 14 times. So we're not moving at Mach speed. And he's just walking me down, just boom, boom, boom. But the last shot is, we're at this weird angle. I'm leaned over as I'm moving along, and he's 8 feet back shooting down. And that last shot, it goes in the top corner of the vest by the shoulder, comes out, because it's kind of a squirt shot. The vest doesn't have a chance because it's a skim. Do you know what I mean? And actually, when we brought it up and we looked at it, it went in between the top layer and the next layer. That's it. The next time you get a chance, a layer of our material is 1/32nd of an inch. That's it. But this thing squirts out and goes right into the back of my skull. And that shot just knocks me flat, and my head it's so loud, and it's so white, and it's so everything that just, it pounds me flat, and I'm thinking, man, I'm in a little bit of trouble. And luckily for me, Sam comes.
Someone walking out the driveway towards me. I thought I heard shots. Can you confirm that? I got a man with a gun in the parking lot. Drop the gun! 6-8 going 23. 10-5-6-8. That's the Sikh Temple, correct? That's affirmative, 75 Pulse Ohio. Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Man with the gun. In the parking lot. Right through here.
Okay, so you saw where Sam pulls up, and then he comes back down. And then he says, my badge is 6'2", his is 4'5". And he says, 6'2", I hear sounds of shots. Can you confirm? I was a little occupied at the time. So I'm catching these shots, and I'm thinking, you can come up anytime now. So when I get knocked flat, and what Sam says is, when he drives up, he doesn't see me, because the last thing on the radio was me saying, I don't have anything, just come in behind me. So then I engage in the fight with Paige. So when Sam gets there, I'm in between the cars, and he sees Paige, and he's like, wait a minute. Last thing was, there's nobody out here, and now this guy's out. And he says, I thought I saw him waving. And what he was doing was, he was shooting me, and then just holding on Sam, and then just boom, boom. So then Sam comes up, and after 43 seconds, eventually engages. Now, part of it is training. Part of it is equipment, in as much as we didn't believe that it was safe to put a round in the chamber in the long gun, even though it's got a safe and it's got another locking mechanism. So when Sam comes up, you hear him actually say, drop the gun. He actually says drop the gun 3 times before he pulls the trigger. So Sam shoots him, and he hits him in the hip. And Paige goes down, but he's not dead yet. So then John shows up, and John does something that you don't really see a lot, but every once in a while.
You're at the Sikh Temple, correct?
Affirmative, 7512 South Howell.
You have been dispatched to 7512 F title office for CNF. Status. Changed.
Man with a gun. In the parking lot. White t-shirt. Shots fired. Looks like he's down. Unknown if he's hit or not. Down! Good job. Where is he? He's laying right there to the right of that tree, under the black truck, or black van. Don't move! Don't move! He's got a gun. Yes, I see him. He's moving. He's moving. Where? On the ground, just over the bum. Oh, shot.
Okay, so one thing that you guys know from being out here, and especially people who have been shooting guns their whole lives, is being a good marksman is habit. You agree with that? Yeah, you have to do the same thing every time and smooth as fast and all that. So now, Paige is up in the front, he's shot, and you heard them say, he's moving, and then you hear another shot. And what happens is, Paige would have died with Sam's shot, but he didn't want to wait, so he shot himself in the head. But where he's laying, you can't see that. All you heard is the shot. We know he's down, but nobody can actually see him. So what the guys do is they get a team together, come to the top. There's a rise there where there's a garage, and they get on top and they look down.
Is he crawling? Shot fired. He's white shirt, black pants. Shot again. Got shield and tent. Sam, get over here! Where's Murphy? We don't know where Murphy is. Go by the garage over there, okay? Cover. Covering! Gotta actually shoot him. Got eyes on him, Jack?
Fire Department on Paul Avenue closed at Manitoba. 78862, car check. Myself and 6885 have just viewed him. He's on his back. He's not moving at this time. Cannot see a weapon. It might be in one of his hands.
Okay, those are probably words that you don't really want to hear. Is Murphy's down, he's all right, and then he looks back, he goes, well, he's alive yet. Not really what you want to go after, but I'll take it. Again, so when this starts, I'm actually in between all the way at the front, and I just worked my way back. Now, if you heard, they asked Sam, where's Murphy? And he says, I don't know where Murphy is. And he's right, because I'm still in between the cars. So while Sam comes up and he kicks the gun out of his hand, I was able to crawl out. So that the shot in the back of the head, I kind of shook it, one of those cartoon, and then got myself out. And I was actually up on an elbow when they came to do the officer rescue. Mike Schultz and Sam were the first two there, and all I could think of is, I got two guys down over here. This guy shot me to pieces. I can't imagine what went on inside. So when Mike comes up, I waved him inside, and I said, go inside, because I can't imagine how bad it is in there. And Mike just looks down at me, takes one look, and, I'm a mess. So he picks me up. And in the meantime, Sam had driven out to the main road to bring the fire department in, and Mike throws me in the back of his car.
Find the weapon! Someone go the other side. Stay with us, man. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right. Where are you hurt? Your throat? Give me a med bag. Over here. Give me a med bag. Over here. Keep your cover. Where's the guy at, Murph?
Two more down up front.
Just one shooter. There's just one shooter. Neck. Shot in the neck. Keep talking to me, Murph. Keep talking to me. Somebody give me a knife. Give me a knife. Right here. He's shot in the neck. He's shot in the neck. Cut my stuff here, Murph. Shot in the leg, too. Leg. Talking. You're doing good, Murph. You're doing fine.
I'm working on it. I will advise my caller advisor.
Are you able to sit in the ambulance? Where at? Hand the neck, the leg, and the back. Hand the neck, leg, and back. Okay. Hand, neck, leg, back. One shooter, he said. One shooter? Not that guy? No.
He's also responding to me.
I'm going to stay with Murph.
The guy in the back seat with me is Dean. He's 6'9", so he took up a lot of my camera time, just the way it is. Probably would have been much faster too if he asked me where I didn't get shot. Then I could have just said my feet and ears and be done with it. In the end, the jaw, back of the head, once in the right hand, once in the right arm, 3 in the left hand, 3 in the left arm, 1 in each leg, chest, side, and the one in the back of the neck. I mean, you have to look at that. Where the ruler ends is the hole that's in the back of my head. I mean, that's astonishing that the vest was able to slow the bullet down just enough that when it goes in my head, it's just stuck in the back of my skull. And I would like to thank the sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Elementary School, where I grew up, who constantly walked by and was like, "Poof, Murphy, shut up." So I think I had a big callus there, which helped. In reality, there's a lot, and I say this If it wasn't for the vest, I'd be dead. And I have no misgivings about that. But there was a lot going on that day that is bordering on extraordinary. In as much as a year later, they hold a memorial run, a 6K. And little woman comes up to me a year later, and she says, "Oh, Lieutenant, you're my hero." And I said, "No, ma'am, I was just doing my job." And, and she goes, No. She said, "I was inside the pantry." And I was like, "Oh my God," I'm so happy you're here. And, she said, "Do you know how many people were in the pantry?" And I said, "No, I never heard." And she said, "There was 15 women and children." And I was like, "Oh man." And she goes, "You don't get it, do you?" And I'm like, "I'm not smart, so yeah, no, I don't." And she goes, "How many times did you get shot?" And I said, 15. And then she goes, "That's right, one for every one of us who was inside," which made me feel about that big. And I had to pull out "Oh, look, what's that?" And she looked and I ran. But, all these things, sometimes it all happens for a reason. I'm here, and by the grace of God, go I. But these 6 people didn't do anything on that Sunday. And while they may not look like you or I, all they did was go to church. That's it. They've never bothered anybody. They're just good people. Matter of fact, Mrs. Kaur, I know her sons, Kamal and Harpreet. So you guys can wrap your head around this. Her son, one's 20, one's 18 on this Sunday morning. So she goes in and basically says, "Boys, come on, it's time to go to church." Well, they're 20 and 18. They were probably up late the night before. And they're like, "No, Ma, maybe next week. I don't want to go." And they let her go to church by herself. And now those 2 boys have to live with the fact that guilt of, had I been there, I may have been able to do something. Our oldest boy, Kamal, just got promoted to corporal in the United States Marine Corps. He wanted to be a cop, and then he called me up like a year later, and he says, "Yeah, this school thing, I don't know if it's for me, so I'm going to go in the Marines. And once I get my schooling and whatever else, I'll come back out and I'll be a cop then." So he's taking a negative and moving it into a positive. I've talked to Matt, and when this happened, and when we were talking about the whole saves thing, I said, one of the things I said was, but the vest doesn't just save the officer. What you save are families. Because, that's Ann, and that's Simon, this goof, and that's my stepdaughter Jane, and my other daughter was living in New York, or actually she was in Korea at the time. But without that vest, they don't have a stepdad, and she doesn't have a husband, and my dad doesn't have his son and brother, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot to that I don't think people necessarily see. And you're like, "Oh, the vest saved you, good for you," but it's not, because it affects so many other people. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I owe my life to the Davis family. Because if it wasn't for Richard coming up with this and then Matt taking the bull by the horns and running with it, there'd probably be well over 1,100 guys and women who don't exist today, and their families don't exist today because they don't do what they do. So next time you see a cop, or if we bring a save up, it's a family too. We're good. Thank you, guys.
Okay, folks, how'd you like that for a busy day? Thank goodness Brian came out of it okay, but very traumatic situation and very difficult situation for everybody to try to resolve and make sure that they did the best they could. There were, as Mass said, 6 people killed, 4 of them were wounded. So you just never know. Who would have thought a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin? But it can happen anywhere at any time these days. Thank you all very much. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Gail.
Pro Arms Podcast music is by Kevin MacLeod.